This is Dr. Anthony P. Stein. I have a PhD in public policy. I studied food policy, agriculture policy, sustainable development, some of the cutting edge things at the time for sort of fixing food systems, as well as some other things in my PhD program. And my aim here is to tackle the topic of carnivore, what is getting called the proper human diet in general, more broadly. And I'm going to do it from a different angle than most other people in this space are doing this. Most of your well-established carnivore figures, the Dr. Berries, Dr. Chaffees, and others, are all medical doctors, and they will talk to you about the science behind carnivore and ketogenic diets, and that's great. Those folks are doing a great public service, but there are very few people in this space talking about practical concerns in carnivore and the broader proper human diet, as well as some other things just going on, like policy issues that are going on that will affect what happens when you go to the grocery store. And so I'm going to try to do that here, as well as on a very frequent basis, try to help you save money on the carnivore diet, because the one complaint that we all know very well is that this diet is expensive. At least that's how people see it. I don't think it actually is that expensive, but that is the common complaint. And so it needs to be addressed. And that's what I'm going to do here, as well as show you some game-changing things I've done that makes the carnivore diet more interesting, because we've also seen, if you've spent any time on social media in carnivore spaces, we've all seen people complaining that the carnivore diet can get a little tedious, a little boring at times, and I have found a game-changing way of making food that I just never get tired of on this diet that is not outside the realm of possibility for most people. And I've also experimented in various approaches on carnivore and ketogenic diets, and I want to share the things I've discovered with you. So if that sounds interesting to you, hit that subscribe button and like this video. It would help. And why should you subscribe? Because in the past 16 months or so, I've lost 133 pounds, living the clean, proper human diet, somewhere on that spectrum. I started out doing a clean ketogenic diet, and I'll go over all that in future videos in the near future. I've experimented with various approaches to living on that spectrum and done things that others haven't, and I've learned a lot that I will share with you, in addition to hopefully saving you money living this way and showing you very basic ways to do it that are not that difficult, and showing you some fun and interesting things that can help you spice up this diet without using lots and lots of spices. So again, if that sounds interesting to you, click that subscribe button. But I want to talk to you today, first of all, what a carnivore diet is and what it is not. If I asked you what a carnivore diet is, you might give me one of about a dozen different answers. A carnivore diet is a different thing to a lot of different people, so let's clear the air here and try to have an open definition of it that will work for most people without being too dogmatic about it, because at the end of the day, if you're eating somewhere on the proper human diet spectrum, you're my people, and I want to help you because you've broken free of the standard American diet and you're going through a lot of garbage, probably from people around you who think that you should totally eat that croissant because it's good for you, right? A carnivore diet is the most basic level, an elimination diet to help you figure out what it is that your body shouldn't have, what it is that's harming your body's metabolic response to the food that you eat. What does that actually mean? It means that you eliminate everything but certain meats, and then from there figure out what it is you can eat for your body to perform at an optimal level, whether that you will stay carnivore or not. For me, that meant when I went carnivore that I got rid of dairy as well as plant foods. I eventually eliminated all spices except salt. For some people, it will mean, though, that they can have more spices than others can. Still, for others, it might mean that you can have some fruit once in a while, though if you're eating fruit on an even semi-regular basis, I would think that you're no longer really carnivore anymore, but a more part of that new animal-based paleo thing that people are doing, and that's fine if it works for you. But after a while, you have definitely left the realm of carnivore and gone into something else. One thing all the varieties of carnivore have in common that I'll go over in a moment is that the vast majority of the meat you eat should come from ruminant animals, meaning animals with two-chambered stomachs. And if that doesn't help you understand what that means, think of it this way. You're eating red meat. That's what it is. Ruminant animals are typically red meat animals. They typically have higher levels of saturated fat than other animals do. Think cows, bison, lamb, elk, deer, and goat. For most of us, that means eating beef and some lamb, if you like lamb. since getting the rest of that can be hard unless you're a hunter or are buying exotic meat on the internet. I plan in the near future to go over the nutrition content of those animals and of the various organs that I can easily get in my state, so you can have all the information you need to have the best outcomes possible on this diet. And I'll introduce you to my own personal organ meat protocol and then a alternative to it that I've developed, so that you can eat small amounts of organ meat every day and get your optimal nutrition. But in addition to those things, most, but not all carnivores will eat some seafood as well. There are different types of carnivore diets. The strictest form of carnivore is the lion diet, where you're eating predominantly ruminant animal muscle meat and some organs, with only salt to season your food and water to drink. Most self-described lion diet carnivores don't even consume butter or eggs, because lions don't consume butter or eggs. It's perhaps the most restrictive form of the carnivore diet, but it works wonders for a lot of people. A lot of people have wonderful success doing the carnivore lion diet, though they are also among the minority of people who eat this way. For obvious reasons, the lion diet is often called the strictest carnivore diet, though I think that's honestly incorrect to call it just plain strict carnivore, because strictly speaking, if you're eating eggs, ruminant meat, some non-ruminant meat like high-quality heritage pork or pasture-raised chicken, and some fish while avoiding other things, you are a strict carnivore. So I do like to differentiate the lion diet from strict carnivore when I do think about these things. Which brings me to strict carnivore. I just defined it for you. If you're following this method, you've probably been carnivore for a little while, since most of the advocates for carnivore suggest that you start with beef, butter, bacon, eggs, and some fish. But in general, a strict carnivore is limiting their spices and maybe even their coffee intake, though coffee or tea seems to be the one place a lot of carnivores are making compromises with the underlying integrity or idea of the carnivore diet. And if that works for you, if you are achieving that optimal living that you are seeking while still having your coffee, I won't pass judgment, and in some ways I'm kind of jealous of you, because I actually love coffee and I just gave it up. That does bring me to relaxed carnivore. This is the person who is using a lot of spices. Maybe they are using barbecue rubs or seasoning in general, besides salt with limited pepper and limited garlic. Yes, they're avoiding sugar still, because the whole point of doing carnivore is to get rid of the sugar in your diet. They're probably drinking some tea or maybe even an energy drink. Things aren't as clean for this kind of carnivore, and again, if that works for you, I'm happy for you. Expect to see some dairy here in as well, more than a little actually, right? Because, some aged cheese once in a while is perfectly fine on a carnivore diet for most people. But if you're having lots of it, of dairy, then you're probably drifting into the more relaxed carnivore state, because dairy is one of those things that will actually help you put on fat. That's kind of the whole natural point of dairy. That's why cows make milk, is to make baby cows get into big cows quickly. And honestly, this is actually where most carnivores appear to be, if what I've seen on social media in carnivore groups is accurate in any way at all. I mean, I've already ditched my coffee recently. That wasn't fun, and I've replaced it with another caffeine source that is purely clean. And I'll make a video in the future about coffee, why I gave up coffee, and what to do if you're trying to give up coffee, because it is something we really need to talk about in the carnivore space. But relaxed carnivore is where more carnivores look like they're on this diet, and they want to be on this diet. I think most people doing carnivore to optimize their health would like to get to a place where they're able still to have their cup of coffee and put spices on their food and things like that, to live a more relaxed way while still being recognizably carnivore. And frankly, that's understandable if you think about it, for any length of time. Finally, I would call the last two ketovore or quasi-carnivore. And some people have started calling this hyper-carnivore, and I don't know why, because the word hyper would actually mean extra carnivore. It's like you're more carnivore than others. These are the folks who are carnivore most of the time, but they like their avocados or fruit or store-bought lunch meat or Braunschweiger or some processed things once in a while, and they're doing fine on this way of life, doing this. Generally speaking, you've left the recognizably traditional carnivore world if you're regularly eating plants of any kind or eating things with dextrose or corn syrup solids on a regular basis, like you might find in cheap Braunschweiger at your typical grocery store. And if that works for you and you're finding yourself in what you believe to be an optimal place, that's great. But just know that most carnivores won't consider what you're doing to be carnivore anymore. Whether that's true or not is up for you to decide. Something that isn't addressed really in these circles is the dogmatism of some folks in the carnivore space. I've seen some nasty things going on in social media groups where someone will post a picture of their ribeye steak that has some blueberries on the side. And honestly, there are vitriolic comments in response. Look, folks, let's not do that. Yes, people should call what they're doing, what they really are doing. So if you're having blueberries, again, you're probably not carnivore. You've drifted into the animal-based space, and that's fine. I will stand shoulder to shoulder with the animal-based diet folks against the standard American diet because it is vastly superior to what's going on in the rest of the world, but it's strictly speaking not carnivore anymore if you're doing that pretty regularly. But remember, like a lot of things in life, this way of life is on a spectrum of how people should eat that ranges from paleo on one side to the lion diet on the other. And all of us have to deal with the naysayers who tell us that we should ditch our diets for the standard American diet, that eating a croissant is a healthy thing to do. The people naysaying us will lecture us on how we eat just after or just before they go to Taco Bell. I mean, think about that. Let's not devolve into a circular firing squad over the definitions of these things, but we should call things what they are. And it will make things in this space, I think, a lot better for everybody if we did. Know what it is you're doing and respect other people doing this, please. Sticking to this way of life is hard enough as it is. So that's what a carnivore diet is, generally speaking. I'll go over what people should do if they're just starting out in another video in the coming days. But for now, if you're planning on jumping in, start pretty strict. Beef, butter, eggs, a little bit of fish like sardines and water, and a little bit of decent quality pork, most likely bacon, but some chops if you can find them that are higher quality. Like if you've got access to heritage breed pork near you, you are blessed because that is not easy to find. And heritage breed pork is actually amazingly nutritious and should not be dismissed by carnivore types because it's pork. It's markedly different than what you see at the grocery store. And I will make a video on that in the coming days as well because heritage breed pork is amazing and should come back to the American palate. Now, let me know what you thought in the comments about everything I've gone over here and what you'd like to see from me in the future. I'm going to go over some nutrition information about basic organs soon. When there's important things in the food policy news that will affect you, I will do videos on that because, again, very few people are talking about this in this space. I'm going to tell you how to do carnivore on a budget because this does not have to be expensive if you know how to do certain things. And especially in these hard times, that's important information. So let me know in the comments what you'd like to see and like and subscribe to this video and channel so we can really get the carnivore message out to the masses. I'm Dr. Anthony P. Stein. Have an optimal day.